Welcome to It Gets Faster Now TV. My name is Antti, and on this video I'm gonna introduce you to the Rally Sweden 2023 route. First of all, thanks for the positive feedback on the Monte Carlo route video that I made. It really gave me more confidence to make more of these videos, so maybe we'll do more of them this year. So now we are talking about Rally Sweden, and first of all we need to mention that Rally Sweden is in a fairly new location. Last year the rally was relocated to Umeå, a city in northern Sweden, while previously Rally Sweden was based more in the south in the city of Karlstad, or in later years it was here in the town of Torsby, and at times it crossed the border over to Norway around here. But there was a really bad lack of snow, especially in 2020, so they had to do something. So eventually they decided to move the whole rally up here. And last year all these stages were completely new to the drivers. And now we have the second edition in Umeå, and now over half of the route is new stages. We have 4 new stages and a new shakedown. Let's start looking at these stages. We have 18 stages. Each of the stages is driven twice, so that makes 9 individual stages, and together they make up 301 kilometers of stages, so that's on the shorter end of WRC events, because 300 is the minimum and 350 is the maximum, and typically the rallies are somewhere from 300 to 320. In the past 2 or 3 years we have had even shorter events because of COVID-19 and its effects on various things, but hopefully this year all the events will be over 300 kilometers. So as I said, we have a new shakedown. It's called Håkmark, and it's a pretty straightforward stage, 5 kilometers in length. It starts on this pretty wide and fast flowing road. It has some nice corners, pretty good fast action, and then all of a sudden we dive into the forest and the road turns into this forest road, which is like quite fast, but it's a bit narrower and more bumpy, and then finally the road becomes narrower and narrower, and finally we are on this really narrow forest track that it's actually quite sinuous at times, and the narrowness makes it more technical than the actual route would look like on the map, so it's pretty tricky on the end of the stage. I would say it's a pretty representative stage of the rally, because that's what the actual stages will be like. There will be some really fast sections, and then there will be this really narrow forest road. So this has everything that the drivers need to prepare for. Maybe the one thing that is missing are the junction turns. There's none of them here. The road just changes into another without junction turns. But that's for the shakedown. Thursday begins this year with the Umeå sprint stage, which we had last year as well. It's like a semi-super special stage. First of all, we do some sections here in this forest, which is an old military area. It's called I-20. There's like these codes in Sweden, and in the past editions of Rally Sweden we have had other examples of these stages. For example, here in 1993 we have had I-13, which has been in Falun, and then I think 1987 we have had the I-2, which has been in Karlstad. So now we have the I-20, which coincidentally would be the Hyundai I-20 namesake stage, but it's just called Umeå. Anyway, you can see that there's a long straight, and then we have these 90-degree corners, and basically that's all that the stage has to offer, just straights and 90s, almost like Ypres rally on snow. And at the end we come to the super special part of the stage. There's this Red Barn arena made for spectators. First of all, we have three artificial jumps. One is here while entering the area, then we have these two long corners, and somewhere in here we have the second jump over a bend, and then the stage will conclude at one of the jumps. Last year the stage extended a bit longer. As we can see, the straight was longer and there was a 90-degree corner, and this is of course remember how Elvin Evans went off in the corner and went over the snowbank and finished the stage outside the road and got some penalty for that. But this year it won't be an issue because the stage is shorter. And we also remember an interesting thing about this stage. When it was driven on Friday evening, the stage became constantly slower for every car. We remember that Kalle Rovanperä was the first car on the road and Thierry Neuville was next car, and we start seeing there's a lot of gap on the next cars, over a second per kilometer. Remember, it's a really short stage, but when you are losing like 9 seconds on a 5-kilometer stage, that's a lot. And that has something to do with the fact that the stage was frozen artificially, and that somehow made the surface becomes more slippery with a lot of breakings, and also of course the tires were pretty warm by that point because they had already done 3 forest stages. And speaking of that, let's go check out the forest stages of this year's rally. We go to Friday, and Friday is quite short in length, only 106 kilometers of stages. Usually you have like 130 to 150, but this is quite short. As you can see, there's only 3 stages that are repeated, and then in the evening you have once again this Umeå sprint. But the first stage we go to is called Brattby, and it's one of the stages that was driven last year, although it was the Saturday opening stage. And this is likely the slowest and most technical stage. Last year the stage winning average speed was just barely below 100 kilometers an hour, so if we look at these other stages, most of them were faster, of course, except the Umeå sprint stage. It's mostly these forest roads. First it's like medium, quite fast but technical, and then we come to this section which is under the power lines. You can see this green line here, that's the electrical power line, and as we know in a rally, when you see the power lines, something's bound to happen. So that's a bit of a faster section, and then it's really technical and sinuous here, and then this little piece of straight here has actually a jump. There's not many jumps in this rally, but here we have one, and then we come to the junction and we join the next road of the stage, and it's a bit wider and faster. It's quite angular, so you have these tight corners and longer straights. And this year the finish line will be a bit later, so there's no point in comparing the stage times. You can compare the average speeds because likely it won't affect that, but it's just a minor change. Then SS3 Sarsjöliden, and this was the power stage last year. It's also a quite fast stage, as we can see that the stage winds were something around 130 kilometers an hour. The beginning is quite nicely fast flowing over crests. It's a bit like the old Värmland, Karlstad, Torsby, Rally Sweden stages. But then it becomes like really fast. You have long straights and only occasional long rounded corners until we get into this pair of tight junction turns, and then in here the stage becomes a bit more narrow, and then once again we have a fast and wide section, but it turns suddenly into a narrower, more technical section, and once again here we join another fast and wide section, and this is how the stage will end as well. It's going to be just really fast apart from these 2 junction turns and maybe some tighter corners, but mostly it's quite fast. SS4 will be the first new stage of the rally. It's called Botsmark, and it's also the longest stage of the day with 25 kilometers, so it's actually more than the 2 first stages together. This is also a really fast stage. It's driven on forest roads, And I would say the only change in the route is that in here, when we look at the satellite image, you can see that we are going past this wind farm area. We have these wind power plants, and if you know anything about these wind power plants, is that you need some really long trucks to maintain them and to build them up. So that means that the road will be quite smooth and it will be quite wide, and there's some corners, but they are really rounded. So it will be a fast and flowing section here, but then once we are exiting the wind farm area, there's this really long straight downhill, and it goes flat out for 2.5 kilometers. And I think that's just crazy. It's outrageously fast to go with the new cars like this for such a long time. But at this point, I would almost say that you should put some chicanes to make it more interesting, and that's a lot to be said from me. So here we have done like 8 kilometers of the stage, and now we turn onto a little bit narrower forest road, and that's how the stage concludes. It's just a string of forest roads. You have some occasional tighter corners, like here you have some tighter ones, and here, and something as well here, but mostly it's just super fast, and then there's these junction turns from time to time. Especially this one is a nice junction turn. It's really tricky in a downhill, and you can't really see where the road is that you're supposed to turn onto. And also this one is nice at 16.4 k's into the stage. You have this fast double junction, just a slight left and a slight right, and then I would say that's a nice place to spectate, both of these junctions. And there's a lot of uphill and downhill. For example, this long straight goes uphill all the time, and here we go up and down, and that makes some sort of character for the stage, but overall it's like quite boring. Even though there's uphill and downhill, there's no crests or jumps. And also one curious thing about these roads is that some of them are really new. When I was looking at the satellite images a couple of months ago, this road wasn't even visible. As you can see on the map, the road ends here, the map white line. You can see on the satellite image that there's the path, but the actual road has been built. And same here, this bit of road is really new. And I think this one as well. Not visible on the map yet. So it's a long stage, and it's likely the fastest stage of the rally. There's hardly any technical sections. I don't want to sound too negative, but this is like boring. I try to think about the viewpoint of the drivers and maybe the people who are watching the all live broadcast, and it's not so interesting to look at these straights that are a kilometer long, and then you have just flat corners and maybe a junction turn, and how difficult it is to make any time differences. It's just all about the braking points and maybe the top speed of your car. I don't know. I think rallying should have some drivable corners. But I know that the organizers have had some problems with the stages. They have had to change some stages because of reindeers moving in the area. And last year when they made the route and I was looking at the stages and they didn't look that interesting, but I was like trying to give them some slack because it was a new rally and they didn't have much time to put up the route. But now it's the second year, so I was expecting more, but it seems that the route this year is not as good as last year. It's not a good thing. We need a snow rally in the championship, but I don't think this is WRC worthy. I don't know what's the solution. Okay, anyway, so much for ranting. Let's proceed with the route. Next we go to Saturday. Saturday has 126 kilometers and the same structure, 3 stages repeated, and then we go to the Umeå stage in the evening. The first stage is another new stage, and this is called Norrby. And it starts on this medium-wide smooth road that goes into this village, and it's one of the nicest roads of the whole rally. There's some really nice corners, nice crests, and even corners over crests. But then once we reach this farm, the road turns into this narrow track and it takes us to these forest roads, and this first one is like really fast, just like on the Botsmark stage, and then we turn onto another one that is a bit more technical, and then finally we have an acceleration. I said that this is a bit more technical, but it's still quite fast, but there's like a couple of more tight corners and maybe it's a bit more narrow, so you don't go flat out all the time, but still pretty fast. So that's a pretty okay stage. And then the next stage is another new one, and it's called Floda, and it's the longest stage of the whole rally at 28 kilometers. And just like Norrby, this one starts on this medium wide road that connects these villages together, and there's some really nice corners, like especially the first one is like really surprising, and there's some like these, I don't know, maybe it's here, but there's like this really tricky kink that goes like right left quite slightly, but it's a really fast section. So there's maybe some good places, although it's really super fast all the time. Then we turn onto this narrower road that it's like really angular, as you can see on the map. It just goes right, straight, left, straight, right. And this corner will be interesting when you have done like this flat out straight and then you have this rounded square left. So it will be a nice place to spectate for sure if you're allowed to go there. Then we go to the narrower forest roads. First it's like really straight, then it's really technical, and this one is actually like really small road. The smallest road of the whole rally. It's quite similar as on the Shakedown, and there's actually some jumps on this road as well, so it's really quite interesting piece of road. I would say that it becomes a bit more boring after this. We have more junction turns and more different forest roads, but mostly it's quite fast, especially from this point onwards. The last 9.5 kilometers are gonna be just super fast, and then you have 1, 2, 3 junction turns, and the third one is not even, it's like a slight left only. So not much braking, not much slower gears. So at least there are some rhythm changes and different sections on this road, but the latter half maybe is a bit boring, too simple and straightforward. The third stage of the Saturday loop is called Sävar, and it was driven last year on Friday. It's beginning on a really nice road. It's actually like the old main road that was used hundreds of years ago with the horses. And now we can see that we have this new E4 road going parallel to it, but in the past they were using this smaller road, but it's good so that now we can use this nice road for rallying. It's like turning all the time, kind of in the sweet spot between fast flowing and technical. And then after 6.4 kilometers we turn right onto this forest road, and it's really fast, and then we join another road which is even faster and wider, and then we come back to the original road. So there's like this little detour loop, but it only adds some kilometers to the stage, nothing really enjoyable or drivable. It's just really fast and 3 junction turns. But this is one of the best stages of the rally. This is really nice, the beginning and ending. So the evening is concluded at the Red Barn Arena, but this time we do the longer version of the stage. Just like last year we did the short sprint and we had the longer version. This year the beginning of the stage is changed a bit. Last year the beginning was here and we had this long straight to a 90 left, but now the start is from the north side, so it's a shorter acceleration and the first junction goes to the right. And I think Thierry Neuville was one of the drivers who went straight in the braking, but now it will be easier. And this beginning section is really fast. You have just these 3 tight corners, but mostly it's just really flat out, and then you go in under the main road in a tunnel. It's quite rare for the WRC to have these tunnels that go below main roads. We have one in Croatia on the Vinski stage, and we have one in Sardinia on the Castelsardo stage. That's the two that I remember from the recent years. And of course we have the tunnel stage upcoming in Mexico, but it's a bit of a different thing. So then Sunday we have as much as 63 kilometers of stages. That's more than we usually have on WRC events. That's nice. And even more impressive is that there's only 3 stages, so that means that the main stage of Sunday is this new stage Västervik, which is 26 kilometers long and it's driven twice. So that makes up like 53 kilometers of the whole Sunday. So the rally is far from being over, and you even have a service, so you don't have to start conserving the tires yet on the first stage of the day. And also I want to give some credit to the organizers for making 3 long stages in the rally, one each day. You have Botsmark 25 Ks, Floda 28 and Västervik 26 Ks. I mean, these are not even big numbers if we think about the past day standards, but nowadays all the stages are so short that it's rare to have stages that are over 25 kilometers, let alone over 30 kilometers. But it's nice that we have 3 long stages in the rally. Västervik is actually quite similar to the other new stages like Floda and Botsmark. Mostly it's just forest roads and they are pretty fast. There's a bit of like tighter corners around from 4 to 6 Ks, but the corners are pretty rounded, so it doesn't appear so technical. And then we have this surprising junction turn, a Y-shaped junction, and then a bit of more sharp corners. But finally we come onto this really long straight to the double junction at 12 Ks, and this is where it gets a bit more interesting. This road is also really narrow and bumpy, and although there's not much of tight corners, but it's pretty technical because it's so narrow. And then we cross the road again with a sort of double junction, and then we go back on similar forest roads as we had in the beginning of the stage. First it's like quite fast, and then a bit more technical, and then at the end it's really fast, and we have these frequent junction turns. Kind of similar to Floda, that the ending is maybe just adding roads for the sake of kilometers. Maybe the stage could have ended here, like on the recce video. By the way, big thanks to Jörgen Hansson, who has made these awesome recce videos from the new stages. And even though I just said big thanks, but he made a mistake on the recce video. He actually turned here, but I don't know if there would have been anything to see on these last roads. It will be just straights. And also a good reminder of the Botsmark stage is that when Jörgen was doing the recce video, the route actually has changed since, and it went somewhere from here and rejoined here at the wind farm area. So it will be different if you look at the recce video. But still, big thanks to Jörgen for making those videos. So that's for Sunday route. We have Västervik twice, and then we come back to the Umeå stage for the power stage. And I don't know if this is the best possible power stage for a rally, because it has the super special elements, and then it's so angular that all the difference you can make is basically in the braking points. There's really no drivable corners where you can make a difference by choosing a good line or something else. But it is what it is, and I understand that it's nice for the spectators to have like big party every evening and to conclude the rally and have the podium celebration here. It will be a good spectator event, and it will be nice for the television to have all the stages televised from the same place, although it might be a bit boring for us spectators. Although this is just me assuming that these are the TV stages. I don't know if Norrby will be televised as well, because the time would suit televising, and actually Västervik as well. We'll find out soon. Anyway, that's it for Rally Sweden 2023. Let me know what you think about the route, and let me know what you think about this video. And remember to share the video and subscribe to the channel and all that stuff. I'm a pretty new YouTuber, so I am getting used to doing this stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching the video, and see you next time on the Rally Mexico video, and enjoy Rally Sweden. Bye.